For over 8 decades, aviation enthusiasts and historians have debated one timeless question. Which propeller-driven fighter was the fastest aircraft of World War II? Today, we're putting that debate to rest, using verified data from official test results, wartime reports, and documented flight trials. In this video, we'll reveal the 8 fastest piston-engine fighters that actually took to the skies during the Second World War. These aren't prototype concepts that never flew, nor paper projects that remained on a designer's desk. Every machine on this list was built, flown, and battle-tested, and many of them faced enemy fire in real combat. Their breathtaking speeds were achieved through a combination of bold engineering, desperate innovation, and an unrelenting drive to rule the air during humanity's most devastating war. So sit back, relax, and make sure to subscribe if you love detailed explorations of military history. It helps the channel grow and ensures you don't miss the next deep dive into World War II aviation. Let's count down from number 8 to the fastest propeller fighter that ruled the skies in 1945. Number 8, Germany's Focke-Wulf FW190D9. At number 8, we begin with Germany's Focke-Wulf FW190D9, capable of reaching a top speed of 426 miles per hour. Nicknamed the Dora, or long-nose version, this model marked a dramatic leap from the earlier radial-engine FW190s that had haunted Allied pilots since 1941. The D9 replaced the old BMW radial with a Junkers Jumo 213A inline engine, forcing engineers to stretch the nose, giving it that sleek, unmistakable profile. This redesign completely changed the aircraft's character. The once low-altitude brawler was now a high-performance interceptor, capable of striking Allied bombers at altitude and dueling with the newest American and British fighters on even terms. Production began in August 1944, and over 700 units were completed before the war ended. Luftwaffe pilots praised its superb high-altitude handling, its incredible roll rate, and its famously rugged airframe, qualities that made the FW190 series legendary. In the desperate final months of the war, Dora 9 squadrons took to the air against impossible odds, fighting to defend Germany even as defeat loomed. Number 7. Britain's Hawker Tempest Mk. Coming in at number 7 is Britain's Hawker Tempest Mk with a maximum speed of 435 miles per hour. Developed as a refined successor to the Hawker Typhoon, the Tempest featured a thinner wing profile and a more powerful Napier Sabre engine, upgrades that transformed it into one of the Royal Air Force's finest low-altitude fighters. It entered active service in April 1944, arriving just in time to face a new terror over British skies, Germany's V-1 flying bombs. The Tempest's phenomenal speed at low altitudes made it the most successful V-1 interceptor of the war, with Tempest squadrons destroying more than 800 of the pilotless weapons. British pilots learned they could not only outpace the V-1 in level flight, but even tip them off course with their wingtips, sending the bombs crashing harmlessly to the ground. Yet the Tempest was far more than a bomb hunter. In air-to-air combat, it was a lethal adversary. Its blend of speed, firepower, and stability made it one of the most feared opponents in the Luftwaffe's final year. As Allied forces pushed deeper into Europe, Tempest squadrons dominated the skies, achieving impressive kill ratios. Many RAF pilots would later call it the finest piston-engine fighter Britain ever built. Number 6. The Supermarine Spitfire Mk XIV. At number 6 stands the Supermarine Spitfire Mk XIV, one of the most formidable fighters ever to take flight, clocking in at a blistering 446 miles per hour. This version marked the final evolution of the legendary aircraft that had saved Britain during the Battle of Britain in 1940. But by 1943, the Spitfire had been transformed into something entirely new. The secret behind the Mk14's leap in performance was its Rolls-Royce Griffin 65 engine, producing more than 2,000 horsepower, double the output of the early Merlin engines that powered the first Spitfires. That enormous increase in power demanded a reinforced airframe and larger tail surfaces to counter the added torque. The result was an aircraft that could climb like a rocket and hold its own at altitudes where earlier Spitfires struggled to breathe. The Mk14 first flew in January 1943 and joined operational squadrons in early 1944. Almost immediately, it proved itself against Germany's newest fighters and became a deadly interceptor against high-altitude reconnaissance planes and even the early jet aircraft of the Luftwaffe. German pilots, once accustomed to outrunning the Spitfire, were shocked by the Mk14's acceleration and raw speed. Over 900 units were produced before the war's end, and they served with distinction right up until the final days of the conflict. Number 5. The American Grumman F-8F Bearcat. At number 5, we have America's Grumman F-8F Bearcat, an aircraft designed purely for speed, reaching an astonishing 455 miles per hour. The Bearcat was conceived as the ultimate lightweight carrier fighter, intended to deliver massive power from small escort carriers that played a vital role in the Pacific theater. Engineers began with the mighty Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, generating 2,100 horsepower, and built the lightest possible airframe around it. The result was an aircraft that could climb to 10,000 feet in just 94 seconds, faster than any American fighter of its time. Its roll rate was exceptional, and despite its compact size, it carried serious firepower, 4 20mm cannons or 650 caliber machine guns. Unfortunately, the Bearcat arrived too late to prove itself in World War II. It entered service in February 1945, and only 24 aircraft had reached operational squadrons by the time Japan surrendered that August. Still, every test pilot who flew it praised it as one of the best handling fighters ever built. In the post-war years, it became the mount of the U.S. Navy AS Blue Angels demonstration team and went on to set multiple climb-to-altitude records that stood for decades. Number 4. Germany's Focke-Wulf, Ta-152H. At number 4 sits Germany's Focke-Wulf, Ta-152H, a remarkable high-altitude interceptor capable of 469 miles per hour. This aircraft was born out of Germany, as desperate struggle to stop Allied bombers that were operating above 30,000 feet, altitudes where most German fighters could barely function. To tackle this challenge, engineers equipped the Ta-152H with long, extended wings spanning nearly 48 feet, a pressurized cockpit, and a Junkers Jumo 213E engine with a 2-stage supercharger. The combination gave it breathtaking performance above 40,000 feet, altitudes where Allied fighters gasped for oxygen. At those heights, the Ta-152H could outclimb, outrun, and outmaneuver nearly any opponent it encountered. But like many of Germany's late-war innovations, it came too late. Production began in November 1944, and only about 150 aircraft were completed before the war's end. Few saw combat, but those that did left a powerful impression. One of the most famous encounters came on April 14, 1945, when Oberfeldwebel Willy Reschke, flying a Ta-152H, engaged 4 P-51 Mustangs at high altitude. He shot down 2 and damaged a third before escaping, a stunning testament to what the Ta-152H could do in capable hands. The aircraft symbolized Germany's technological brilliance and desperation in the war's final months. It was a superb design that arrived when the Luftwaffe no longer had the pilots, fuel, or infrastructure to use it effectively. Had it appeared in 1943, it might have changed the air war entirely. Instead, it became a tragic footnote of potential unrealized. Number 3, the Republic P-47M Thunderbolt. At number 3 is America's Republic P-47M Thunderbolt, reaching an incredible 472 miles per hour. This specialized version of the legendary Jug was built for one purpose: to hunt down and destroy Germany as high-altitude fighters and jet aircraft that began appearing late in the war. The P-47M was powered by a Pratt & Whitney R2800-57 engine, heavily modified with an upgraded turbocharger water injection system for emergency boost, and a series of weight reduction changes to squeeze every bit of speed possible from the massive airframe. The result was a lightning-fast interceptor capable of catching even Germany's fastest piston-engine fighters and holding its own against early jets. Only 130 aircraft were produced, all entering service in December 1944 with the famed 56th Fighter Group, the only unit ever to fly the type. The 56th had specifically requested a faster Thunderbolt to counter the growing jet threat, but the P-47M came with its own challenges. Its complex high-performance engine demanded painstaking maintenance, and early versions suffered severe mechanical issues that grounded the fleet for weeks. Once those problems were solved, however, the P-47M proved devastating in combat. It combined the Thunderbolt's legendary durability and firepower with speed that could match or exceed almost any German piston aircraft in the skies. The 56th Fighter Group flew their Thunderbolts until the war's end, destroying both conventional fighters and early jets alike. The P-47M represented the absolute performance limit of the Thunderbolt design, a fitting finale for one of America's most iconic fighters. Number 2, Germany's WW2 335 Pfeil, the Arrow. In second place, we find one of the most extraordinary aircraft Germany ever produced, the WW2 335 Pfeil, or Arrow, with a top speed of 474 miles per hour. This was unlike any other fighter of the war, featuring a revolutionary push-pull engine configuration, one engine in the nose pulling and another in the tail pushing. The concept was ingenious. By placing one Daimler-Benz DB603 engine at the front and another behind the cockpit, Dornier engineers doubled the power output without the aerodynamic drag of wing-mounted engines. The result was astonishing. A heavily armed, armored fighter with straight-line speed that could outrun almost anything in the sky. But like so many late-war German designs, the WW 335 arrived too late and in too few numbers to make a real difference. Delays meant its first prototype didn't fly until October 1943, and by the time production began in early 1945, Germany's industrial base was collapsing. Only about 37 aircraft were completed before the war's end. None saw real combat, though several underwent high-speed test trials confirming their extraordinary performance. Allied test pilots who flew captured WW 335s after the war were astonished by its handling and speed, calling it one of the finest piston-engine aircraft ever built. Had it appeared just 2 years earlier, it could have been a game-changer in the European air war. Instead, it remains one of aviation's greatest what-ifs, a masterpiece of engineering that never got its moment to shine. Number 1, the North American P-51 Mustang. And finally, at number 1, the fastest propeller-driven fighter of World War II, the North American P-51 Mustang, reaching an incredible 487 miles per hour. This aircraft was the ultimate evolution of the legendary Mustang, representing the absolute pinnacle of American piston-engine fighter design. Unlike its predecessor, the famous P-51D, the H model was not just an upgrade, it was a complete redesign. Engineers managed to shave off nearly 1,500 pounds through lighter materials, a streamlined fuselage, and simplified systems. At its heart was the Packard V1659, the American-built version of the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, equipped with water injection for emergency power. Together, these innovations gave the P-51H not only unmatched speed, but also extraordinary agility. It could roll faster, climb quicker, and turn tighter than any previous Mustang, all while maintaining its famous long range of over 850 miles on internal fuel. That meant it could escort bombers deep into Japan and still outrun almost anything the enemy could launch. Production began in February 1945, and 555 aircraft were delivered by the time Japan surrendered that August. Though it arrived too late to see combat in Europe, and only a handful reached the Pacific, it represented the very peak of propeller-driven performance. The P-51 Mustang stood as proof of how far aviation had come in just 6 short years of war. It was faster, lighter, and more refined than anything else that flew on piston power, the final king of the propeller age. These 8 machines represent the absolute summit of piston engine aviation, the culmination of years of engineering, sacrifice, and fierce innovation under the pressure of total war. Each was born from a desperate need for speed, because in aerial combat, a few extra miles per hour could mean the difference between life and death. What is truly remarkable is how close the competition was. Just 61 miles per hour separated the 8th-place WW190D9 from the top-ranked P-51 Mustang. Every gain came from tireless experimentation, countless failures, and a relentless drive to go faster. Of course, speed wasn't everything. Victory also depended on maneuverability, range, firepower, reliability, and the skill of the pilot behind the stick. But in a war where seconds could save lives, speed was the edge every nation fought to claim. Now you know the 8 fastest propeller fighters of World War II, ranked by verified performance data. Do you agree with the list? Or do you think another aircraft deserves the top spot? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through World War II aviation, don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the skies of history, because every war leaves behind legends, and every legend has a story worth remembering.